Hello viewers, this is Samuel Alli for Afroscandic, and today I'm privileged to have Dr. Obiageli Ezekwesili, the Senior Economy Advisor at Open Society Foundations, who is also the former Vice President, African Region, World Bank, and also the former Minister, the Federal Republic of Nigeria. You are welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the nice presentation you've delivered today. Could you please tell us more about the economic inclusiveness in Africa, specifically in West Africa?
Well, I think the very simple way to say this is that indeed Africa is doing better in terms of economic growth, but economic growth is not sufficient as a basis for delivering better quality of life for all citizens. You need to have economic growth that is equitable, that is inclusive, that is broad-based, and that is shared, which therefore means that all of Africa must maximize all the opportunities that Africa has. The best way that nations have proven through history to maximize their opportunities is to invest very much on the citizens. Productivity of the citizens become a trigger for everybody being able to benefit from growth, because they then all generate the growth. In the discussions here today, we were talking a lot about the competitiveness of West Africa. West Africa, as one of the important regions and sub-regions of the continent, is a huge population, especially driven by the population of the largest country, the most populated of the countries, Nigeria. West Africa has opportunities beyond the oil and gas sector. The human capital of West Africa is significant, but it needs to invest even more in having people with the right kinds of skills that would attract global companies. Companies are looking for talent, and they would go to where those talents reside. And so the more that we have skilled West Africans, the better. It would create the basis for inclusive economic growth for the continent. Opportunities, whether in tourism, in infrastructure, in logistics in general, in financial services, in energy, in agriculture and agribusiness, opportunities in aviation, opportunities in housing, opportunities in technology in general. They are huge. The structure of the West African economy has not changed much from what it used to be after independence. So that means that it is holding a huge range of diverse opportunities that would need to be to really be those sources of growth that are diverse would need to be given the activation that attracts private investment, whether by the citizens or by foreigners, through sound policies. And so a lot of our conversation had to do with what kind of macroeconomic as well as microeconomic structural sectoral policies are countries pursuing in West Africa in order to position themselves as credible destinations for investment, especially from a country like Denmark or the Scandinavian countries in general. And to say to the Scandinavians that they are way behind the curve, because more and more private sector from other countries are discovering these opportunities. One key area of opportunity today on the continent is a matter of, the domestic consumption. So when you look at consumables, it is a big area of need, and you follow the market. The market, there's a huge market for consumer products, and so whether it be household needs or such other ancillary products and services, there's a huge market, and a growing population of West Africans are joining the middle class, which disappeared for quite some time. But with the growth, there's a gradual increase in the number of the middle class, and a lot of people from abroad are coming back. There's a lot in terms of injection of diaspora money into the economies. Frankly, the diaspora money in the form of remittances has overtaken development aid in the size. Yeah. An average of $20 billion annually. That's significant, So it's not. Africa is. We shouldn't be. How do I put it? Cynical about the conversation that Africa is rising, but we must not get triumphalist. Because if we got triumphalist, then we would be celebrating very little progress. The trend is positive, but it is not sufficient.
We need to maintain.
It is not. No, we need to more than quadruple what the current pace, because we've been too far behind. So we must be in a hurry to achieving much more than we're achieving. It's a continent that still has nearly 50% of the population in the poverty class. When we look at what China has been able to do within 3 decades, it has lifted 600 million people out of poverty. We can do the same. We can do even better. And China did its own without the opportunities that today's free access or relatively cost-effective access to new technologies offer. So we now see that we also could make a revolution happen. Africa's own revolution is the information and communication technology revolution. The fact that telecom revolution happened on our continent. Mobile telephony was a revolution, and it was African in character. So there are many success stories that can come out of our continent. Africa has 60% of the total arable land in the world. What that means for food production chains and food security in general is huge. But we need to have the governance systems. Our governance systems remain a major the issue, and they are obstacles to growth. They are obstacles to even citizens wanting to invest, not to talk of foreigners. So we must pay more attention to those bottlenecks and deal with them.
But if we need to do that, is there a specific way for our government to change and to do all these you've mentioned? Because the citizens cannot just force the government to do all these that you have highlighted. Are there specific areas or what the citizens could do? Is it in policy changing, or what can be done to do?
Every democracy requires the citizens to force the government to do what is right. So, the citizens must demand accountability. The citizens must demand for good economic policies. It's the right of citizens to make that demand. And it's important that, the private sector in the countries can generate as much empirical research as possible to show to the country why it must make the right kinds of policies in order to make them competitive. If businesses in Nigeria are losing opportunities simply because there is no competitiveness, then it's important that they should engage with government and demand for a more enabling environment for business to thrive. Yes, so citizens should also be able to articulate what they see as the hindrances to their own productivity, to their own progress. Because progress doesn't happen because government is generating it. It happens because government does the right things in order that the citizens may grow. Okay.
Thank you so much. Before you go, man, what about the spectra of insecurity in Africa? Because even with all this that you have highlighted about the citizens' need to also contribute to the growth and what the government has been doing, what about the spectra of insecurity like the Boko Haram issue in Africa to the world that want to come to Africa for investment?
Well, the governments must take full control of the insecurity. Governments everywhere, that is their primary responsibility, to secure property and life of citizens and those that come into their territory. So it's an important work that government must do, not just at the national level, but at sub-regional and continental level. There needs to be investment in capable military, capable intelligence systems, so that intelligence gathering and sharing of information across the continent would be very effective. There's got to be the capacity to use technology to address some of the challenges of insecurity. It also has to do with the judicial systems, so that criminality is tackled once it is seen, so that you don't let it settle as a pattern of behavior. However, if you did all of those, you're still part of a global society now that's under threat because of all of these terrorist, ideology. So if it is because of the global trend of insecurity, then the whole world would come together to solve. But if it is something that is isolated and your problem, you've got to take leadership to solve it. So in the case of my country, in Nigeria, Boko Haram is a major problem of our country, and the strength of will and determination to tackle that scourge, because you cannot have an environment that is unsettled being a peaceable environment for investment. Yeah, so you have to tackle it. And then if you are dealing with the global risk, it is common. Yes. And if it is the global risk and it is common, then what you must do is to be part of the global commons to solving that, to collaborate. It's urgent that Africa should get a hold of what terrorists are trying to turn the continent into, because they're thinking that the weakness of security, governance, and institutions, it's providing a fertile ground, for the kind of growth of terrorist activities. But if governments really put their minds to it, they have the monopoly in the control of coercive apparatus. That's what government is about, and they can do it. They can upgrade armies. They can improve intelligence gathering and deal with things. Prevention is better than cure, as they say, and more of that needs to happen with security governance.